The next story I wanted to talk about is titled Lauren Witzke Says the Equality Act Will Illegalize Jesus Christ. This is written by Kyle Mantilla on rightwingwatch.org. So let's give it a read and see what it says. Right-wing activist Lauren Witzke appeared on the Alex Jones Show Thursday, where she warned that the Equality Act will illegalize Jesus Christ if it becomes law. Witzke, the GOP's 2020 Senate candidate in Delaware, and a flat earth QAnon-believing conspiracy theorist with ties to white nationalists and anti-Semites, appeared on Jones' program to discuss the fact that Wells Fargo recently shut down her bank account. Let's give this video a watch and see what this woman had to say. I didn't actually know who this was. She's fairly new on the scene, but she isn't a nobody. As it says here, she's the GOP's 2020 Senate candidate in Delaware. So she's basically like the next Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a congresswoman, not a senator, and senators are generally speaking more powerful. So, she has that going for her. But let's watch this and see what she had to say.
There is a war on Christians. They did this, they targeted me, and they made an example out of me because I'm an outspoken Christian who vocally opposes the Equality Act. Listen, Alex, I don't know if you know much about it, but they're trying to illegalize Jesus Christ and the scripture and categorize it.
Absolutely. It's just like in Europe and Canada where they're arresting pastors. Tell folks about it.
Okay, first of all, arresting pastors. They are not arresting. What he's doing here when he says that is intentionally giving people the impression that they're arresting pastors because they're pastors and nothing else. If they are arresting pastors in Europe or wherever else he said, they had a reason for it. If they didn't have a good reason for it, Human Rights Watch campaigns and organizations would have been all over it. Just like with Jehovah's Witnesses, when their human rights were violated in Russia, a bunch of organizations came out of the woodwork, including like the UN and others, saying this is wrong, you can't do this shit. If this was actually happening, people would be all over it because freedom of religion is one of the fundamental rights. One more thing I wanted to mention about this. She also said Wells Fargo shut down her bank account. Wells Fargo says, yes, we did, but no, it had nothing to do with politics, completely unrelated. She's just using this event to weaponize against people, as usual. It's like calling everything communist. That's the kind of thing that she does and that her party does, and she's just finding some way to weaponize some random thing that took place that was completely unrelated. Let's keep listening.
Tell folks about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what it will do is it will classify scripture, belief in traditional marriage as hate speech. If an abortionist wants to make the decision to not perform an abortion, they can arrest that abortionist or that doctor or that.
No, completely made up. That is bullshit from beginning to end. First of all, a belief against gay marriage or a belief against abortion or whatever else, those things aren't inherently religious. It's just religious extremists tend to be the ones who believe that stuff. It doesn't necessarily mean that you believe in God because you're pro-life. In fact, I know some atheists that are pro-life. Those things are not necessarily linked. And arresting somebody for believing something like that, that's never going to happen. Never. That's completely absurd and baseless. And it's just a fear-mongering tactic that we see over and over again from the extreme right.
To not perform an abortion, they can arrest that abortionist or that doctor or that nurse that chooses to take the biblical approach and change their lives. Children who...
Look, if you have a job to do, then you have to do that job. If you don't want to do that job anymore, you can walk right out the door. You're not going to be arrested for that. What the fuck are they talking about? Of course you're not going to be arrested for it. But if you refuse to perform your job duties, then you can expect to not have that job anymore. I'm sorry. You can't go into a Planned Parenthood clinic and then refuse to do things that Planned Parenthood does. If you want to work at this clinic, you have to agree to the job description and the job requirements.
children who struggle with gender identity. Now that it's going to make them illegal for them to pursue therapy to change their mind.
I assume what she's talking about here is conversion therapy, similar to gay conversion therapy. I guess this would be trans conversion therapy, where, you know, extremist Christian parents send their kids to this boot camp where they literally torture people and mistreat them horrifically, basically forcing them to give up on their sexual identity or their gender identity. That's fucking wrong. I hope that we close down all of those institutions, quote unquote. I would love to see gay conversion therapy closed and banned. It's already banned in most places. Like in Canada, I think they banned it recently. The fact that she's using this as like a bludgeon to attack the left, like, oh, freedoms, is fucking obnoxious to me.
Legal for them to pursue therapy to change their mind. And this is, I mean, it's absolutely an attack.
It's basically the cult trying to make it illegal to leave the cult.
Oh, now we're in my territory. It's the cult trying to make it illegal to leave the cult, huh? Okay. So the fact that people are trying to ban literal torture, like gay conversion therapy, the fact that they're trying to ban that, is the cult trying to prevent people from leaving the cult? That doesn't even make sense, first of all. And second, what criteria are you using to determine that this is a cult? What is the thing that you're calling a cult? Like, what are you even referring to here? Is it just people who don't want gay conversion therapy to exist, or like gender conversion therapy or whatever it's called? We've known for a long time that this guy was completely unhinged, but he seems to be bringing in new people into this unhinged little weird umbrella.
Make it illegal to leave the cult.
Yes, exactly. And even just quoting scripture will be classified as hate speech, is what it is going to do. It is going to make Christianity a crime on a federal level.
No, that's not what it's going to do. That's completely fucking ridiculous. They're just using it as a bludgeon, the same way they use critical race theory as a bludgeon in communism and socialism and all the other buzzwords they like to use.
Christianity a crime on a federal level. We cannot allow this to go any further. We're going to lose everything. If we give our enemy an inch, he's going to take the whole thing. As you've seen, Alex, you know, you've watched as this slow fade has happened, and we have allowed it to happen. And it's gotten to the point now where we're all going to end up in Kamala's gulags unless we all stand up together and fight back as Christians.
Kamala's gulag. Okay, first of all, her name's pronounced Kamala, not Kamala. I don't know why people keep doing that. And second, gulags? What are they talking about? What gulags? Okay, do you guys know what a gulag is? I mean, the far right. Does the far right know what a gulag is? I would be willing to bet they don't. They use that term the same way that they use the term communism and critical race theory. They just throw it out as a buzzword. A gulag is a prison camp where people went to die. It's a horrific place to be. And the world is a better place without them. Although they do still exist, the world is a better place now that there are fewer of them at the very least. They have no idea what they're talking about, and it's genuinely offensive for them to compare things to gulags when they have so little knowledge about what happened there and the sacrifices that were made by the people who died in them. It's fucking sad. And once again, we have a brand new person ready to take the reins of power. A 2020 Senate candidate in Delaware. And she's a QAnoner. As if we needed another QAnoner in government.